Hello everyone! My name is Nabila Azahra
I'm Lorencia retold.
and we are going to retell chapter 11 from novel Black Boy.
Let's get started. When Richard arrived in Memphis on a cold November Sunday, he found Beale Street, which he had been told was filled with danger. He saw a big frame house with a sign in the window, Rooms. He finds a woman named Mrs. Moss in front of her house. She offers him a place to stay at a reasonable rent, which surprises Richard. Mrs. Moss says that she lives in the house with her husband, a baker, and her daughter, Bess. Mrs. Moss says that he can eat with the family and also admits that Richard is permitted to drink in the room as long as he is courteous to the family. Richard can't believe that Mrs. Moss is so kind to him. Richard has dinner with Bess and Mrs. Moss that evening, and Mrs. Moss embarrasses her daughter by saying that Bess is of marriageable age and that Richard would be a great husband to her. After dinner, Richard and Bess talk for a moment, and she shows him her school's books, which she is 17 but only in fifth grade. Richard goes up to his room that night, worried that he will be trapped by the Moss family. Richard finds a job as a dishwasher for $12 a week. Mrs. Moss is happy that Richard has already found work and calls out to Wes, saying again that Richard is a fine man and a good one to marry. Richard is shocked again at Mrs. Moss' forwardness regarding his and Bess's possible relationship, as they have barely spoken. The next day, Richard tries to eat from a can of beans alone in his room instead of at the dinner table with Mrs. Moss and Bess. But Mrs. Moss convinces Richard to have chicken with Bess. Afterward, Bess says that she loves him and that she would make a good wife. Richard tells Bess they ought to get to know each other better before planning a life together, and Bess goes off in a huff.
One night before Richard went to work as a dishwasher at a restaurant, a nigger boy came up to him and said that he felt lonely. He asked Richard to accompany him. So they walked by the river and found a can filled with liquor. They looked for a white man to buy the liquor so they can get some money from it. They left the can and went to the street to find a white man. After they walked not far, they found a white man. The white man at first thought that the two niggers boys were trying to trick him, but they led the white woman to the place where the can of liquor was, and the white woman agreed to buy it. Richard and the nigger boy got $5 from the white man. Then the nigger boy took the $5 bill to a store to change it. Richard waited the nigger boy for a long time, but the nigger boy ran away with the $5 bill. So at the end, Richard realized that the white man and the nigger boy had worked together and used him to move their liquor as it was illegal.
That's all from us.
Thank you and
See
see
you!
you.